On January 9th, 2020, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company hosted what is not only the first Nintendo Direct of the new year, but also the first Nintendo Direct of the new decade. Being obviously a Pokemon Direct, it announced Pokemon news. We had the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team remade for the Nintendo Switch in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX, but more importantly we had the announcement of 2 DLC expansions coming to Sword and Shield. Well, I should say 1 DLC expansion, since you cannot buy them separately. The only buying separately will be for Sword and or Shield, if you wish to buy for either or. And during that, we had quite a few interesting announcements between new legendary Pokemon and new Galarian forms. We also got the announcement of, well, just that, a Galarian Pokemon, or Galarian versions, or possibly Galarian versions of the legendary bird trio, and 2 brand new Regis. And a lot of people have been wondering, how could that be? How could it be that the Regis, these 2 new Regis, were just revealed now, and how do they make sense within the Pokemon universe and lore? And how the hell do we have Galarian forms of legendary Pokemon? Well, I'm gonna be trying to explain that as best as I can, and probably fail. So, welcome, I'm the Legend of the S, and let's try to explain the new Regis and Galarian Pokemon. So to explain how the Regis and the Galarian birds, possible Galarian birds I should say, came to be, we have to look at 3 distinct possibilities, well technically speaking 4. The first one is, just for the birds, is that they might not be Galarian forms and just new forms. These are not regional variants of Zapdos, Articuno, and Moltres. They could just be different forms. We had Pokemon take different forms before in the past. For example, Giratina and Shaman, calling back to Generation 4. These could also be brand new Pokemon. They just are related to the legendary birds in some way, shape, or form. That might just be the laziest version of this explanation of it's just 3 new Pokemon, especially because their design are so similar to, well, the legendary bird trio, that I feel like it's the least likely, and the legendary birds having different forms is actually one that I think kind of has a lot of possibility, just by the fact that the Pokemon, these 3 birds, will be protecting or are surrounded in the Direct by the tree, or they are surrounding a tree that they made a note of mentioning during the expansion pass for Crown Tundra, who seems to be having at the very least 3 different storylines going when it involves legendaries, or a story that involves all of these points, because we know that we're gonna have this tree that involves the birds, we have Calyrex and whatever he's gonna be doing, and the temples for the Regis. So the first explanation actually comes from us all the way back to 2013 with X and Y. If you remember correctly, X and Y was the first games to not only introduce the fairy type Pokemon, but also introduce Mega Evolutions. Well, at the time, fairy types were described as just recently being found out, and as well as Megas. This was also explained, if I'm not mistaken, in Ultra Sun, not Ultra Sun, in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, or it was revealed in X and Y, I don't remember and I apologize for that. That the reason Megas came to be was basically because of the ultimate weapon being fired and shot into space and hitting a meteorite that allowed Megas to appear from the remnants of that meteorite. If I'm not mistaken, I could be misremembering, so please correct me in the comments if I am incorrect when remembering this. But the ultimate weapon fired up was also what created the fan theory that Pokemon works in different timelines and universes. Well, Pokemon has always been a part of the multiverse theory in a way, as in every Pokemon game, your cartridge and my Pokemon Sword and your Pokemon Sword, although they're basically the same game, they're on different universes. That's why it allows us to trade and have multiple versions of each Pokemon, and Pokemon that supposedly there should only be one in game to be caught. For example, there's only one Eternatus that we know of, but I can have 2 that works basically on that theory. Pokemon has basically always worked on that, but the multiverse parallel universe theory with X and Y goes with every Pokemon, the Pokemon games that came beforehand, so generations 1 through 5, all work in the same quote-unquote universe timeline, where the games all could happen at the same time, and all of them were, although different, would be similar. They would work in this meta universe. Then the ultimate weapon was fired up in that parallel universe that created a different universe where, you know, fairy types exist as well as mega evolutions coming from that. That would explain why previous games didn't have megas, but these ones have. Then from generation 6 to 7, that was the running theory. This is one new timeline, a new parallel timeline, much like The Legend of Zelda, or even Dragon Ball, where something happened in one universe and the other didn't, and that's how we have megas in this timeline. That would explain why we have mega evolutions in the generations 6 and 7, in games that should not have them. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are Kanto remakes where Mega Evolutions were not a thing, but Megas were there. Same thing happened in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, giving even new Megas to Pokemon. Something that the Kanto remakes didn't. Same thing for Generation 7 with Omega, or not Omega, in Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, although they didn't introduce new Megas, they just introduced Z moves. Just basically being maybe that the region of Kalos was the one that produced and had the Mega Stones, and that produced and given to the world, even further pointing to maybe it's just a Kalos event because of the ultimate weapon being fired, and maybe the remnants of Dioxys or something was what caused, or the Dioxys meteorite, or that Owen was kind of close to the meteorite. They could have gotten the stones as well. That's obviously just randomizing things, but that is a possibility. Then we reach the end of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon with Ultra Necrozma, and there's a theory that Necrozma kind of once again resetted the universe, created a second universe that was just wiped clean, and now we are living in this universe where there's no Megas, there's no Z moves, it's just Dynamaxing. But we know Dynamaxing was something that came from Eternatus, so maybe, just maybe, in the Pokemon world, Dynamaxing was always a thing, but was always a thing only in the Galar region, because you still need the power spots to get Pokemon to to Dynamax and Gigantamax, so maybe, just maybe, that's why we have that in the Pokemon universe. But that's basically the theory. The new Regis and the Galarian Pokemon could just be the way that these Pokemon work in this universe, that in this universe we don't have a Pokemon like Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno. We just have these ones, not the one that we knew and loved from the past, but these new ones that could be. Now this is a theory, could very likely be as well. It's very likely, but I would be surprised if they went with this, because all what I just said of the multiverse and the weapon firing and causing a different universe is all just a fan theory. It's never been confirmed. No matter how much we look into it, it's never been truly confirmed. So it's just that, a based theory from the fans that might be true, but it also might not. We just have to wait and see. But this one, I think, of all of them, kind of ranks the lowest of the major three I was going to talk about, outside of the possible just multi-version or possible brand new Pokemon. Now, the second possibility goes in line with what I said before about these legendary birds being just either a new form, not Galarian forms, but just new forms for the previous trio, or just three related Pokemon or three unrelated Pokemon to the previous bird trio, and just being new Pokemon. But this explanation kind of only goes for the Regis, and that is that they always existed in the games or in the Pokemon universe. It's just that we never heard about them before. You could say, but that kind of makes no sense given the fact that in Pokemon Platinum you needed the three Regis to get, or in Pokemon I should say, not just Platinum, but in Pokemon in general, or the 4th generation games, you needed Regigigas, or you needed the three Regis to get Regigigas, which is kind of funny given the fact that you needed Regigigas to get the three Regis, but you also needed the three Regis to get Regigigas in Platinum. which is kind of funny to me. Now, in the games, it always been explained that it was Regigigas that made the legendary Titans. And yes, they are the legendary Titans, the Regis, not the Golems like some people thought, I myself included. Apparently they're the Titans, which is weird. It's like the legendary dogs, I believe, are the legendary beasts, but people still refer to them as the dogs. Although like two of them are not really dogs. But yeah, that's basically the thing that could be it. It's basically that Reggie already had made them, Regigigas already made them, but, you know, not Kanto, Sinnoh, and Owen are so distant from the Galar region that maybe these two Pokemon were just forgotten. Or maybe they also exist in those regions, but they haven't seen it so long that they have been forgotten. You might say, how could that be? You could probably, people would still pass on the legends, but remember, even in the Galar region where Zacian and Zamazenta are the big deal, they are really not big deals, as in people forgot about them. Same thing with Eternatus. There were things that happened, but Eternatus is just the Darkest Day, and Zacian and Zamazenta are basically just the sword and the shield of the great hero, not the Pokemon. So, you know, legendary Pokemon or mythical Pokemon will be or can be forgotten. Now, this one is the one that I think for the Regis could make sense, and it could be one of the reasons, although I feel like it will be kind of lazy. Although, I do think this will be the reason, but will be a part of something else, a part of the third reason, and the third theory that I kind of have. Now, the third theory and third possibility is something that technically speaking already is canon within the games. And that is that there's not just one of each legendary Pokemon. Now, a lot of people have taken the legendary birds or the possible Galarian forms of the legendary birds as some unexplainable mess. How are they going to explain this? How does this make sense? And then in a way it also goes to the Regis. We know that Regigigas made those three the Regis, and how can we have them now? Well, the explanation is like that. There's more than one legendary Pokemon of each set or of each. Some Pokemon might just be one of each, sure, like the Time Trio or the gods basically being Arceus and his trio that he commands with Palkia, Dialga, and Giratina. That would make sense. Those Pokemon would effectively be one of each, given the fact that Palkia controls space, Dialga time, and Giratina the other world, and Arceus is literally just, you know, God. But some of the other Pokemon, there's no reason to believe there's not more of them. For example, in the Pokédex is stated, or it's stated I believe in multiple Pokédexes, that a Pokemon that Regigigas created the legendary Titans. So he created them. However, the first time we see the Titans is in Owen. The first time we see Regigigas is in Sinnoh. In Sinnoh, to get the Titans, you need Regigigas. But to get Regigigas, you need the Titans. So it kind of conflicts there a little. So you need to bring over Titans from a different region to that. But the Titans are still also a part of that region. But there is, in Pokemon Platinum, a canonical proof in-game that there are more Pokemon, legendary Pokemon, one more than the ones we know. There's not just one Suicune. There's multiple ones. There's only one Zapdos. There's multiple ones. We might even have multiple of each, of Lugia, of Ho-Oh, and the proof is in the pudding. For example, in the Battle Frontier for Platinum, you have Battle Arcade Frontier Brain Arcade Star Dahlia, and her team consists of a Togekiss, a Blaziken, and a Zapdos. Not only her, but Battle Castle Frontier Brain Castle Valet Darark, I believe I pronounced his name correct, has Gallade, Empoleon, and Entei. Not only that, but there's one more, and this third one is the interesting one, as in Battle Frontier or Battle Tower Frontier Brain Tower Tycoon Palmer has a Heatran, a Regigigas, and a Cresselia. Now, these are all legendary Pokemon, but what I want to bring attention to is the fact that in Pokemon Platinum, the following legendary Pokemon are catchable: Giratina, Uxie, Azelf, Mispert, Dialga, Palkia, Heatran, Regigigas, Cresselia, Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, Regirock, Regice, Registeel, and obviously then we have the events for Darkrai, Shaman, and Arceus, with Arceus never having its actual event. So, just gonna point that out, that the only legendary Pokemon that I just said that a Battle Frontier brain has that is not catchable in Pokemon Platinum is Entei. One legendary out of the 5 that I told you, with Heatran, Regigigas, Cresselia, and Articuno and Zapdos being very much catchable within this region. So the question then becomes, how can it be? How can the Frontier Brains have a Zapdos if Zapdos is roaming around the grasses of Sinnoh? How can a Battle Frontier have Heatran, Cresselia, and Regigigas if these 3 are, well, in specific locations within the game, with Regigigas in specifically needing the requirement to be having the requirement of 3 Regis being caught and brought over to him. That might just be the biggest evidence. Regis and Regigigas, for example, there's multiple ones. So, multiple Regigigas probably created multiple Regis, period. So there might be Regis unknown to us. Regis might just be like, in a way, like evolutions, where in Kanto you really, like, for example, in the Kanto region you could only have, or you could only find 3 stones, the 3 elemental stones. But if you brought it over to Sinnoh, where they had a little mossy area for Eevee, you would get Leafeon, which was not possible anywhere else because that little area was specific in Sinnoh. The same thing for Magneton evolving into Magnezone. It needed to be with the power of Mount Coronet, which was very interesting at the time, but that's the thing. We legit don't know how many legendary Pokemon of each there is. Now we know some of them, again, Giratina, Palkia, Dialga, Arceus, probably there's only one off, but most Pokemon, probably there have been multiple ones. Now you might say, but how can that be? How can there be multiple legendary Pokemon of each? There's multiple Zapdos, multiple Articunos, multiple Moltres, and stuff like that. How could they exist if in-game they cannot breed? Well, that is correct and kind of incorrect. Even within the game, it's already canonical that you can get Pokemon, legendary Pokemon, in an egg. You might say, how could that be? But here's the thing. It actually is a thing. Once again, it is a thing. Why? Because Manatee can have a Pokemon egg. In what we get in that, you get what? Exactly, you get a Pokemon called, what's the name of the Pokemon now? I forgot that. I'm so sorry. It's what's the name of it? It's Fione. Wow, that's Pokemon so forgettable. I forgot the name of it. Fione. That is a legendary Pokemon having a baby. Now, what do you think of the baby is irrelevant? It exists. Not only that, Generations 7 and Generation 8 have Pokemon, legendary Pokemon, that have evolutions. Urshifu evolves from Kupfu, and Lunala and Solgaleo evolve from Cosmos. Not Cosmos, Cosmog. What the hell? Cosmos is a completely different thing. Plus, we know Pokemon, legendary Pokemon, to have genders. Latios and Latias have had genders given to them. But also, interestingly enough, in Sword and Shield, Zacian is referred to as a female. Zacian is actually referred to as either the elder sister or rival to Zamazenta. Zamazenta is never really given anything. We don't know if it's a male or a female. We can predict probably male, given the fact that they say the elder sister or rival. We never get a name, but it would be the brother and sister dynamic that we could have there. I don't know, that's a weird one. But that's a definite possibility that we could see in the game. So those were my ramblings on trying to explain how the Regis and the possible Galarian legendary trio could happen. So thank you guys so much for watching. Tell me in the comment section which theory you think is more likely, and if you have your own theory about how the legendary birds or even Regis came to be. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that the right arm, I think, of what we can assume is a Regi dragon type Pokemon, or the Regi Pokemon that will be a dragon type, is also the dragon head in Emerlock City. So we were being teased about it. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I've been the Legend of Yes. See you guys next time.